Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice, and I am from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2, March the Minis for the Nintendo DS. So, last time we've completed everything in terms of Floor 3, or Floor 4 to be more specific, in Magnet Mania. So today for this video is about the fact that we're about to continue things on and move on to Floor 4, or Floor 5 to be more specifically, not what appears to be Lava Land, aka Lava Dome. So in some cases though it's about the fact that we will come across into a lot of lava stuff, meaning there are a lot of fire bars, and on top of that, there's going to be lots and lots of lava. That's what I can really say about this for the most part, especially concerning about the fact that, well, we're just going to have to avoid, you know, a lot of hazards here and there. So, of course, we get ourselves a classic castle theme music in the background, since in the original Super Mario Bros. So that's actually eye candy and fury, especially concerning about the fact that there's not much else I can really say about this world, honestly. So, and keep this in mind, it's about the fact that, as you can see, we stumbled across into the forms of those, let's just say by the forms of the fire jet, you know, Shy Guys, as far as this is concerned. And basically, you don't able to jump onto the flame fuse, because obviously, if you dare touch the flame fuse on from underneath it, basically you lose one of your mini Marios if you do that. So either way, let's just go and hop onto one of those black Shy Guys in particular. And just make sure about the fact that you have to get yourselves a good timing right there, because otherwise, if you time it wrong, when it comes to able to actually try to avoid the fire bar, then you must be able to also lose one of your mini Marios essentially. So either way, that pretty much does it for this particular first level in the forms of Lava Land. So either way though, because I'm pretty sure that we're now onto the halfway point in terms of Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2, once we're able to realize about the fact that we've only got about quite a few floors left. Well, excluding by the forms of some other content you know as well, although unlike the forms of how it does in on Minis March again, that basically though is about the fact that despite it only has like, I would say, 4 floors in irregular mode, as well as the plus variations in there as well, making a grand total of 8 floors to go to, whilst usually it does manage to have themselves some extra stages here and there as well, like the rooftop, alongside with the forms of the basement, and that's what I can really think about it. So, spoiler alert for those of you who want to know what's going to be up next in terms of the forms of this entire progression into this game. So, and fundamentally speaking though, this might actually be one of the shortest episodes so far, mainly because about the fact that, well, obviously I'm also able to cut some footage to able to do a bit of a successful attempt on certain stages, because obviously, if I dare miss out on any of those mini Marios, I'm able to just cut off screen, and then hopefully this will be a successful attempt in mind, which I know for a fact that it's been quite some time since we're actually able to get this thing running. So either way though, because chances are there's going to be a lot of emphasis on the forms of a lot of memorization to work with. So either way, a few things we want to explain for this particular video anyway, is that today's date is of course the 14th of May today, in this case in 2023 today, and something tells me about the fact that until coming up at some point during the forms of, let's just say, I would say on Wednesday most likely, that basically Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is going to be coming to Disney+. So, despite the fact that it's going to be releasing in just about 5 days before the DVD/Blu-ray release of the film, even though that I just don't know if I can able to actually rewatch that film again, I must be brutally honest here, but that's just because about the fact that I'm a little bit, well, mixed on it, especially because of all that weird CGI is involved, and on top of that, with a lot of controversial stuff here and there. So either way though, as you can see, we can now have the ability to able to do some wall jumps. But in order to do that though, as you can tell from that particular help instructions thingy right there, basically you have to let one of your mini Marios to able to actually hug into one of those red spongy wall, so that way you can able to actually do some wall jumps here and there. However, you can able to actually tap the screen, and then basically that's all you have to do for this point. So yeah, everything else will be pretty much accounted for, and this is where the game starts to get a bit difficult at this point, especially because of all that, a lot of hazards that you definitely need to avoid, and on top of that, a lot of stuff you have to able to get accustomed to. So, but either way though, because chances are you have to deal with a lot of like, focusing on other things for the most part, so... And also, keep this in mind, is about the fact that, as I mentioned this before, that I'll do the 100% playthrough of the game, meaning I have to get every single gold stars in this particular playthrough. But if not, though, then chances are I'll pretty much get able to do it off-screen or something. Even though it's hard to tell at this rate, because I know for a fact it's been about yesterday since we've actually last recorded this. So, anywho, though... And, on top of all that stuff, though, is about the fact that, well, I think, relatively speaking, that, I think we've only got about roughly 5 days, to go, until specifically, Fast and Furious 10 will be releasing. So, either way, though, because chances are, one thing I found is a little bit strange, is that the only exception being is, of course, Fast and Furious 3, to be more specifically, the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, alongside with the forms of Fast and Furious, in this case, the 4th entry in the series, that basically every single film entries is that they always release in a 2-year gap. Like, for instance, the first one obviously came out in 2001, and then 2 years later we get Too Fast, Too Furious, in Journey Forms of in 2003. But then, in Journey Forms of in 2006, then obviously we got Tokyo Drift, as I mentioned earlier. That particular film did release for about a 3-year gap in between, you know, the second film all the way up to the third film. And on top of that, there's also Fast and Furious, the 4th installment of the series, which came out in 2009, which is also a 3-year gap. And afterwards, though, it continues that tradition for a 2-year release schedule. Like, specifically, after when Fast and Furious, the 4th entry in the series, came out, that basically it wasn't until we got the 5th film until 2011, and then another 2 years later, for the sake of the films of Fast and Furious 6, and then the other installment, which appears to be Fast and Furious 7, which came out in 2015, which is also a 2-year gap, and stay plus with the films of Fast and Furious 8 until 2017, sorry. I keep thinking about the films of other stuff worth noting for. And on top of all that stuff, though, the spin-off film, which came out in 2019, which is again, yet another 2-year gap. And another 2-year gap goes to the films of Fast and Furious 9, because, relatively speaking, because it was originally going to be a year release during that time, but of course the pandemic was a thing after all, so they have to delay the film, so makes obvious for that point. And on top of that, now and then, that we know on 2023, meaning there's another 2-year gap in between the films of Fast and Furious 9, alongside with Fast and Furious 10. So, it's pretty crazy kind of think about it. I mean, God knows, they might do it again, until God knows if the 11th entry in the series will be releasing during that time. So, who knows? Who knows? Especially concerning about the fact that, again, we're not going to be able to mention more details about any spoilers for the likes of the 10th film just yet, because, well, it seems very obvious about the fact that the film hasn't been out yet, so... But I digress, so as you can see, we now actually stumbled across into those fire blocks. And what makes the fire blocks super unique in that respect is that every time whenever you do manage able to get rid of those fire blocks by simply tapping the actual touchscreen, is that basically it starts to go a little bit more of a weird flame backgrounds in each corner on the bottom screen most likely. Is that, for instance, if I tap this one right here, basically that we now have the ability to able to burn stuff, specifically a lot of wood blocks apparently. So basically though, it's about the fact that that way you can essentially try to able to, well, trying to able to get a lot of opening entrance as far as this is concerned. Although you have to be careful of the forms of those flames as far as after using that particular fire blocks while trying to burn those things up, because otherwise it'll just obviously kills Mini Mario in the process too. So either way, there's also one of those rare moments about the fact that obviously we don't have to worry about collecting those coins anyway, aside from that particular card I've got, because obviously that still gives me the opportunity to able to actually get that gold star no matter what, just because of our non-stop bonus. So Yeah, that could be a lot of emphasis on that essentially for only quite a few levels, like this level for instance. So that should be all good in my part. So anyway, so now let's go ahead and move on to level 4-6, and this where things gets a bit interesting because as far as I can tell, that now we need to deal with the forms of those particular squishy like toy-like enemies that we can able to stumble across into. So again, it's been a very long while since we actually just managed able to last play this game. I mean, sure enough though, I'm still busy playing through The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom after all, especially that I'm on to the point that I've pretty much at 20 shrines right now, especially concerning I still haven't exactly gone into the forms of the next tier to obtain. That's just because it has a gem pack full of content, especially because, well, no wonder why that game receives a lot of high reviews, much like the forms of how it does it in Breath of the Wild. So, but either way, though, it makes sense for that regard. So, anyway, so I think it's probably best to do one mini Mario at a time, because otherwise, if we do multiple mini Marios at one point, it'll get us a lot of chaos, especially concerning about the fact that, well, again, if you lose one of your mini Marios, then obviously it actually does a tally of your health bar before you get into the DK boss fight or Donkey Kong boss fight. So, but anyway, we did this successfully. And let's talk about the forms of another topic for this point today. And that is about the fact that, well, out of nowhere, I could assure you for this point, we're about to be getting the forms of some more Sonic the Hedgehog comics, specifically IDW. In this case, it's actually involves around me, of course, and this time around though, it's going to be involves around the 900th adventure story covers. So because of that though, I'm actually very curious to know of how that's going to be all about. Well, mind you, I haven't exactly read upon comics as much. That's just because about the fact that I'm more into the forms of reading some in-game text boxes from the likes of the forms of the Legend of Zelda games, basically, because I can honestly understand of what's going on in certain situations, as far as you can definitely tell. But I digress. So yeah, as I mentioned this before about the fact that for those of you who lived in North America, in this world in particular, that this world is also known as Lava Dome. So I guess that pretty much seems to be obvious for that fact. So, oh, and on top of all that stuff though, out of nowhere too, that in Rotten Tomatoes website, they did somehow manage to able to realize that usually Rotten Tomatoes protects woke Disney to able to remove the Peter Pan and Wendy's awful audience review scores. That's just because about the fact that, well, it's a good thing that I don't usually watch that film, to be honest, because that film honestly disappoints me a lot, especially concerning about the fact that I just cannot even believe that remake just exists. Especially it's bad enough we're about to get more and more eventually until the later years to come. I mean, seriously, that's getting old very fast, I'm telling you. It's really getting old. But I digress. Oh, did you know about the fact that there was actually a Disney's cancel project called Wildlife? And basically, that was actually the first ever CGI film that it was actually by the forms of how the fact that that film was actually cancelled due to the forms of too much adult humor. Especially concerning about the fact that it was expecting that, I don't know about you, but I'm guessing it's more accurately about the fact that, well, the movie was to tell the story of an elephant who becomes a citizen on the New York club circuit. In the fall of 2000, Roy E. Disney watched a work in progress screening and was so applied by the film's adult humor that he immediately ordered production to be shut down. And as a result, I just did not notice that film existence until I realized that that particular project was cancelled due to that, you know, the adult humor was in it. Which, I did not notice that existence, so... And on top of all that stuff though, there is technically a rumor / leak is about to be going on at the moment, and this time what appears to be by the forms of yet another installment in terms of the forms of the Mortal Kombat series. Or to be more accurate though, that it did say about the forms of certain articles, it did say that the next Mortal Kombat game from NetherRealm and the same applies with the films of WB Games and WB Studios as far as I'm concerned, that basically is going to go back into the forms of that particular, well, the actual title of the game, despite it's not being revealed yet, and that's what appears to be by the forms of Mortal Kombat 1. Not Mortal Kombat 12, but Mortal Kombat 1. And it's expected to be releasing on, for the most part, multitude of platforms. Well, the only exclusion exception to this, though, this time, which appears to be the PS4 and Xbox One, I'm guessing it's most likely because they moved on to a next generation of consoles during that time. Although consecutively enough, though, is that it's going to be releasing on PlayStation 5, PC, and Xbox Series X/S, and most notably, the Nintendo Switch, which, I don't know if it's going to be true or not, but time will tell, especially because, again, that we haven't exactly thought about this yet, especially because, well, we're still on the forms of May after all, so because of this, though, yeah, everything else will be pretty much expected at that point, so there we go. We've somehow managed to complete most of the levels in Lava Land, so pretty snazzy for the most part, even though sometimes, though, that the ending portion of level 9 is actually kind of tricky to able to pull off a massive chain reaction, but regardless of everything else, though, I did somehow pull this off, no problem, so alright, time to smash even more Shy Guys, but this time that these pipes are now in a different formation, so I guess that probably explains it, huh? So, even though it's just about the false power factor, again, it's just all about the leak at the moment, but again, sometimes I don't trust rumors and leaks for this point right now. Although, potentially speaking though, actually, it's about the fact that until about a month later, that we're about to be getting Front Mission 2 Remake will be arriving on the Switch until next month, so it's expecting to be hype, I guess? Well, mind you, I haven't exactly played that much of those games because I'm more into, like, you know what I'm saying, Mario and Sonic stuff, Zelda stuff, as well as Kirby and Donkey Kong stuff after all, so anyways, let's get into the forms of the next boss fight right here, and it appears to be, it's kind of like the exact same setup as the forms of how it does it from the first boss in the game, although the noticeable difference is this time is that he now starts able to summon those fireballs that you have to avoid, and on top of that, there's also a special bubble item, and that protects you from the forms of not only from certain fireballs, but also most notably fireballs itself too, so that way you can able to guarantee able to get a bit of a good hit detection right there, especially you can instantly manage to avoid those fireballs as you can see. And on top of all that stuff though is about the fact that in order able to attack Donkey Kong, so that when he goes like, like right there, it's your chance to able to hit him. So, but again, what makes things a bit trickier this time around though is that obviously it's just the fireballs themselves this time. So yeah, you have to be able to get yourselves a bit of a good timing and a bit of careful aiming as far as this is concerned. Because again, if you really want to go after the gold star, then obviously you have to do this in a perfect run. But thankfully, with the forms of that particular bubble, despite the fact that I somehow missed it, but either way though, luckily we did succeed. So and there we go. That basically does it for the Lava Land, or Lava Dome to be more specific. So, oh jeez, I probably need a break right now, and I might as well head back onto The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom right now, I must be honest. Although, keep in mind though, I'm barely just somehow managed to get started with the game, but at least I've got some progressioning still. But either way, gold star for every single levels now, so I'm pretty pleased about this. So, anyways though, with that being said, we got the endings off at this point right here, so join me next weekend for more of Let's Play of Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2, March of the Minis, is that we'll move on to Floor 5, or Floor 6 to be more specific, and this time we're going to be exploring through Peach's Castle, or Toadstool Castle, as far as depending on what region you lived in, so I'll see you guys next weekend. Later fellas.